Hey guys, today we're taking a look at my counter fairy deck. Now this deck was requested by Rockies, and the idea behind this deck is that you just use these cards that benefit from counter traps, and we all know counter traps are very powerful on their own. So if you use these cards in addition to counter traps, you start to create a very powerful situation and really annoy your opponent. So first off, we have Bountiful Artemis. So Bountiful Artemis has a okay attack, decent defense, and you just draw cards when counter traps are activated. So you're going to be activating all these counter traps, and you're going to get draw power on top of it to get more counter traps, and keep things going, which is very strong. And then we're going to have Meltiel. So Meltiel 1600 attack again. So when counter traps are activated, you gain 1000 life points, which is really nice. But the big thing is, if you have Sanctuary on the sky in the field, you start wrecking your opponent by destroying cards. So counter traps already are going to negate and destroy cards, and then on top of it, you gain a good field situation, and then on top of it, you gain life points. So very powerful. And then we have Zeradias. So a beater, but also used to get Sanctuary in the sky. Again, Sanctuary in the Sky is just not really a great field card, but we need it for how this deck works. So yeah, I thought about putting 3 in this, but I don't think that's necessary. Still a strong card, obviously, when Sanctuary is on the field. And then we have 2 Valdelgun, so you can run like 2 or 1 of the stronger counter fairies. It's really up to you. But this guy, like those stronger ones, is very powerful. This one's a dragon, this one's dark, so it's a little bit different than some of the other cards in the deck that kind of go against what it's about. But it gains a huge effect when counter traps activate and do what you want, depending on what the counter trap negates. So you can lead to some very, very powerful things going on, depending on what card activates, in addition to having this card on the field, which is very strong on its own. And then we have Victoria. So Victoria is a really great card, in my opinion. A strong beater and protects your fairies, which is important for this deck because you need to benefit from those counter trap effects. And then, its other effect about dragons is just situationally really, really good. So I really like that card overall. We also have Archlord Kristya running a good amount of fairies. So if you do end up losing your fairies at some point, we do have this. Thinking about running 1, not sure because we're sort of limited on monsters. But, if you can lock down special summons on top of having counter traps and those counter trap effects, you're going to really put the hurt on your opponent. And then we have Honest in a light-based deck. Thunder King Rai-Oh also helpful, locking our opponent down, negating things, as well as being a light monster, which is useful. Then we have 3 Sanctuaries in the sky. Again, the battle damage, effect is really not important, but the fact is we need Sanctuary in the sky to use our other effects. Pot of Duality, not completely necessary because we do have draw power, but I do like it for a little more consistency in getting what you need. And also 1 Dark Hole. Spell count is going to be very low to make room for all these traps. So we have 3 Divine Wrath, a great counter trap, 3 Divine Punishment. Once you have Sanctuary on the sky, you'll be negating everything with this. Black Horn of Heaven, very useful nowadays, all the special summon that people do. Dark Bribe, kind of taking the place of MST because we're gaining advantage when we're using things like Dark Bribe. Drastic Drop-off, just really annoying for your opponent to deal with. You could definitely run 3 of this. Just get rid of your opponent's draw, or just really annoy them. Can be bad if you're using it against a deck that benefits from discarding, but otherwise really powerful. And 1 Debunk, just useful these days. A lot of card effects can activate in the hand, like Honest and Boojins and stuff like that. So I find that Debunk's nice to have at 1. And then just, those stable traps. You don't have to run those if you want, but there's a lot of other, traps you can run. Obviously, Solemn Warning is a counter trap and very important to have. So now for the extra deck, we're just running 4-star XYZs. You can run 8 stars. It's just not really what I'm focusing on right now, just because there's not really a point. It'll be very hard to get 2 Valdelguns out in the field at once. So I'm just focusing on 4 stars. And because our extra deck is filled with them, we just have so many. So we have 2 Starliege Paladynamo, just a really great card overall. Utopia Gem Knight, not so much essential XYZs these days, but because we have room, we have them in here. A Photon Abyss Dweller, Fairy Chair Girl, giving us some draw power. Constellar Omega, I'm running 2. I really like this card, giving us access to go through their back row very easily. Blackship, Gagaga, Exciton, Silent Honor, Lavalval Chain, and Maestroke, just mostly staples and whatever you really want, because we really have a lot of options for what we want to put in there. So now for the side deck, if you haven't seen one of my videos before, my side decks are not like a side deck for matches that you like side in and stuff like that. I use the side deck to just talk about, other cards that can be useful for this deck for when you're building it yourself and you want to think about, what other cards can I use if you don't want to completely net deck me or something like that. But you can run Hecatrice and Valhalla and do special summoning and add more powerful fairies like Splendid Venus and Dark Lords, and there's a bunch of other stuff you could do with that. There's other counter fairies. Voltanis is another very powerful one that can be used. There's some other ones. There's some dark and light ones and stuff like that. But they're situational to get out. So it depends whether you want to use them or not. The focus is the lower leveled counter fairies, and then they get backed up by the higher level ones if you need them. Blackluster Soldier, if you want to run more dark, there's other dark counter fairies. There's other dark tech. And you can run just a bunch of light and dark and have access to this card, which is always a great card to have. Card D, obviously, giving you access to draw power without wasting it using like spells and stuff like that. Seal of Orichalcos, you can run this definitely to give your monsters a big boost and kind of lock down things, which can be very powerful. Trade in can be useful for this deck, giving you some draw power and dumping things, especially if you're using more higher level monsters. And these are just a ton of the counter traps that you can use. Destruction Jammer, Judgment of Anubis, Chivalry, Huge Revolution is Over, 7 Tools of the Bandit, Force Back, Negate Attack, Magic Drain. They're all really good options. And because it's a counter trap deck, you can really use whatever you want. I'm sticking with ones that I think are will get off as often as possible. All the ones I have in here can be used like almost all the time. So that's kind of what my thought is, but you can do whatever you want, depending on what you're up against or what you think you need. All those counter traps can be really useful. So that's my counter fairy deck. My first attempt at trying this, and I think it's been doing pretty well, having a lot of fun with it. Gets insane draw power and lockdown at the start, and if you can keep it going, you could just negate everything your opponent does and really annoy them. And really fun to play, and I definitely like this fairy archetype because it's very interesting and unique. But if you guys have your own counter fairy decks, you can post below, let me know in the comments, talk about what cards you use, and make suggestions for me. But thank you guys for watching. I'll see you later.